Something strange is happening at Manchester United right now. At first glance, everything looks positive. The team is sitting near the top of the Premier League table, fighting hard for a place in the Champions League. Fans should be celebrating, the players should be focused. The mood around Old Trafford should feel exciting. But that's not what's happening. Behind the scenes, tension is building. Frustration is growing. And two completely different controversies have suddenly collided at the worst possible moment for the club. One problem is about football scheduling. The other is about a legal battle that has followed one of Manchester United's most famous players for nearly 6 years. On their own, these issues might seem like distractions, but together they show just how complicated Manchester United's season has become. Because while Michael Carrick is trying to guide the team toward a Champions League spot, the club's leadership is fighting battles far away from the football pitch. And surprisingly, one of those battles is with the Premier League itself. Recently, reports revealed that Manchester United have officially complained to both the Premier League and the broadcaster Sky Sports. The reason might sound small at first: kickoff times. More specifically, 8 p.m. kickoff times. In April alone, United is scheduled to play 3 matches at that exact time. 2 of them will take place at Old Trafford on Monday nights. The other will be a Saturday night away game. For many fans watching on television, this probably doesn't sound like a big deal. After all, evening matches can feel exciting and dramatic. But inside the club, the frustration is very real. According to reports, Manchester United officials believe they are being scheduled for late-night matches more often than many of their rivals. And that is creating problems for supporters, families, and even the club itself. So far this season, 14 out of United's 34 league games have kicked off at 8 p.m. That number might not seem shocking, but compared to other top clubs, it's noticeably higher. And United believe the schedule is unfair. Why? Because late-night kickoff times create serious challenges for travelling supporters. Imagine thousands of fans travelling across England to watch their team play. After the match finishes close to 10 p.m., many of them still have long journeys home. Now think about a game like Chelsea away at Stamford Bridge. If the match starts at 8 p.m. on a Saturday night, fans could be returning home well past midnight. For families, students and supporters who rely on public transportation, this becomes a major issue. From the club's perspective, it's not just inconvenient, they believe it's unfair to their fan base, but here's where the story becomes ironic. The very reason Manchester United are easy to schedule is also the reason they're frustrated. Most of the biggest clubs in England are competing in multiple tournaments this season. They are playing in the Champions League, the Europa League, or the Europa Conference League. On top of that, they are also involved in domestic competitions like the FA Cup and the EFL Cup. All those competitions create packed schedules. Clubs have midweek matches, travel across Europe, and deal with constant fixture congestion. But Manchester United are not facing that problem. Earlier in the season, they were knocked out of the EFL Cup surprisingly early by Grimsby Town. Later, they were eliminated from the FA Cup by Brighton. And when it comes to European football, United are missing from that stage completely. Last season, they lost the Europa League final to Tottenham Hotspur. That defeat meant no European football this year. The result? Their calendar suddenly became very empty. While other clubs are constantly playing midweek matches across Europe, United often have full weeks without games. And from a television broadcaster's point of view, that makes them the perfect team to move around the schedule. Broadcasters love big clubs. They bring huge audiences, massive ratings, and global attention. But to show those matches on TV, they often move kickoff times. Since United have open spaces in their schedule, it's easier for the Premier League to move their games to television-friendly slots. From a broadcasting perspective, it's perfect. But from Manchester United's perspective, it feels like punishment. In other words, their failure in other competitions has made them the most flexible team for TV scheduling. And now the club is starting to push back. But the strange scheduling isn't the only unusual thing happening around Manchester United this season. In fact, another strange pattern has appeared in their calendar. Huge gaps between matches. For example, after their recent 2-1 defeat against Newcastle United, Manchester United will have an incredible 11 days before their next league game. Later this month, they will face an even longer break. 24 days between matches, yes, nearly a full month without a competitive game. Why such a long pause? 2 reasons: the international break and the FA Cup quarter-finals. And once again, Manchester United are not involved in either. While other clubs are playing intense cup matches and travelling with national teams, United will simply be waiting, training, resting, preparing. In theory, that should be a huge advantage. Less fatigue, more recovery, more time for tactical preparation. But football isn't always that simple, because momentum matters, and too many long breaks can destroy the rhythm of a team. Players lose their competitive edge, match fitness drops, and the intensity of the season becomes harder to maintain. And unfortunately for Manchester United, their momentum has already taken a hit, because just recently something important happened. Their unbeaten run under Michael Carrick finally came to an end, and the way it happened shocked many fans. But what happened that night in Newcastle made this already strange season even more dramatic. Manchester United's unbeaten run under Michael Carrick had started to feel almost magical. When Carrick stepped in as interim manager, expectations were not particularly high. Many fans believed his role would only be temporary, The main goal was simple: stabilize the team and guide them through a difficult period. But something surprising happened. Game after game, Manchester United kept winning. Confidence returned to the squad. Players who had struggled earlier in the season suddenly looked sharper and more motivated. The team began climbing the Premier League table, slowly but surely. Before long, people started asking a question that once seemed impossible. Could Manchester United actually finish in the top four? For a club with the history and expectations of United, qualifying for the Champions League is always the main target. But earlier in the season, that goal looked very far away. Carrick changed that. Under his leadership, the team built an impressive unbeaten run that gave supporters real hope again. But every streak eventually ends, and for Manchester United, that moment came at St James's Park against Newcastle United. At first, the match seemed under control. United were playing well enough to avoid defeat, and many fans believed they could extend their strong run. But football can be cruel. In the closing stages of the game, Newcastle delivered a dramatic twist. Despite being reduced to 10 men, the home side managed to score a late winner. William Osler found the decisive goal, sending the stadium into celebration and leaving Manchester United stunned. The final score was 2-1. For Michael Carrick, it was his first defeat as interim manager. It was painful, especially because the team had worked so hard to build their momentum. Losing to a 10-man Newcastle side made the result even harder to accept. Yet when the dust settled, the bigger picture still looked surprisingly positive. Even after that defeat, Manchester United remained third in the Premier League. That's the strange reality of their season. On one hand, there is chaos around the club, complaints about scheduling, frustration inside the organisation, uncertainty about the future. On the other hand, the results are actually improving. The team is performing well, the table looks encouraging, and a Champions League place is still very much possible. But just as the scheduling debate was beginning to dominate headlines, another story suddenly returned to the spotlight. A story that many Manchester United fans thought had already disappeared. It involved one of the club's most recognisable players, Harry Maguire. To understand the situation, we have to go back to the summer of 2020. At that time, Maguire was not just a Manchester United player. He was the club captain, a leader on and off the pitch. During the off-season, he travelled to the Greek island of Mykonos for a holiday with friends and family. It was supposed to be a relaxing break before the new season. Instead, it became the start of a legal nightmare. One night in Mykonos, Maguire became involved in an incident that quickly escalated. Greek police arrested him and charged him with several serious offences. The accusations included assault, violence against police officers, attempted bribery, and insulting behaviour. The news exploded across the football world. For Manchester United, it was a public relations disaster. Their captain was suddenly facing criminal charges in another country. Shortly afterward, a Greek court found Maguire guilty and handed him a suspended prison sentence of 21 months. But Maguire immediately appealed the decision. From that moment, the case entered a long and confusing legal process. Hearings were postponed, deadlines were delayed, new dates were set and then moved again. In total, the retrial was postponed 4 different times, and for years the situation remained unresolved. Now, nearly 6 years later, the story has finally reached another major moment. The retrial has taken place, and the verdict has been delivered. The court decided to uphold the conviction. However, there was one small change. The original sentence of 21 months was reduced to 15 months and 20 days. Like before, it remains suspended, meaning Maguire will not go to prison. He was also given a fine of €1,500, but the most important detail is this: Maguire still denies any wrongdoing. He insists that the version of events presented by the police is not accurate, and according to reports, he plans to appeal the verdict again. That means the legal battle may not be over yet, and just when the situation seemed dramatic enough, a new claim has made the story even more shocking. According to sources close to the case, something very unusual may have happened during that night in Mykonos, something that could completely change how people see the incident. But the claim is so controversial that it has raised even more questions about what truly happened. And if Maguire eventually reveals the full story, it could become one of the most shocking football controversies in recent years. Because the allegation involves a massive bribe, undercover police, and a decision that Maguire says he refused to make. And if his version is true, it could explain why this legal saga has lasted for nearly 6 years. But the details of that night are still heavily debated. As the legal battle surrounding Harry Maguire continues, the story has taken an even stranger turn. According to reports from people close to the case, Maguire claims something extraordinary happened during the incident in Mykonos. The claim is shocking. Sources say that undercover police officers allegedly told Maguire that the situation could disappear if he was willing to pay a large amount of money. The reported figure, £50,000. In other words, according to this version of events, Maguire was allegedly offered a chance to make the entire case vanish with a payment. But Maguire says he refused, completely. According to the source, Maguire told those involved that he would rather face the legal consequences than pay a bribe. If that claim is true, it could explain why the legal battle has dragged on for so many years. Instead of quietly resolving the situation, Maguire chose to challenge the accusations and fight the case through the courts. However, it's important to remember that these are still claims. Greek authorities have strongly denied any wrongdoing, and the courts ultimately supported the police version of events when they upheld the conviction. Still, Maguire has never backed down from his own story. He insists that the night in Mykonos began with a frightening situation involving his family. According to Maguire, the incident started when two men approached his sister, Daisy. He claims those men injected her with an unknown substance, causing her to become disoriented and confused. Maguire says she began drifting in and out of consciousness, which immediately made the situation feel dangerous. Naturally, he became extremely concerned. His priority, according to his version of events, was to take his sister to the hospital to get medical help. But things did not go as planned. Instead of going to a hospital, Maguire says the situation escalated quickly. Police arrived, and he was taken to a police station. From that moment, his story becomes even more dramatic. Maguire claims that while at the station, officers beat him on the legs and told him that his football career was over. He says they threatened him and treated him aggressively. Greek police strongly deny those allegations. Their version of events paints a very different picture. According to police reports, Maguire and the group he was with became aggressive during the incident. Officers claim they were attacked and insulted while trying to control the situation. Police also stated that an attempt to offer a bribe was made during the confrontation. In court, the judges ultimately sided with the police account. That decision led to the original guilty verdict and the suspended sentence. But even after the latest ruling upheld the conviction, Maguire is still refusing to accept that outcome. His legal team is expected to continue the appeal process, meaning the case could continue for even longer. And there is another twist that might bring the story back into the spotlight soon. According to reports, Maguire may eventually share more details about the incident in a future documentary. If that happens, fans could finally hear his full explanation of the events that night. And depending on what he reveals, it could spark a whole new wave of debate. Because even now, years later, the truth about what happened in Mykonos remains controversial. Some people believe Maguire's version of events, others believe the court made the correct decision. But here's the most surreal part of the entire situation. Just hours after the latest verdict was announced, Harry Maguire returned to the football pitch as if nothing had happened. There was no dramatic absence, no emotional press conference. Instead, he simply stepped onto the field and played 90 minutes for Manchester United against Newcastle United. For many fans, that moment felt almost unbelievable. Imagine dealing with a major legal ruling that has followed you for 6 years, and then within hours you are playing in one of the most competitive football leagues in the world. It's a reminder of how strange life can be for professional footballers. Off the pitch, they face intense pressure, legal battles and constant media attention. But on the pitch, they are expected to perform as if nothing else exists. And for Michael Carrick, that situation creates a difficult challenge. Because while legal controversies and scheduling disputes dominate headlines, he still has a football team to manage. His job is simple in theory: win matches and secure a Champions League spot. But the environment around the club makes that task much harder. Every week brings a new distraction. First, it was the scheduling complaints. Now it's Maguire's legal case. And yet, despite all of this chaos, Manchester United are still in a very strong position in the league table, which leads to an interesting question. Could all of this drama actually hide a secret advantage for the team? Because when you look closely at the situation, something unexpected begins to appear. While other clubs are exhausted from playing multiple competitions, Manchester United have something that very few top teams enjoy: time to rest, time to train, time to prepare. And that advantage could play a huge role in the final weeks of the season. But whether it becomes a blessing or a curse is something that will soon be decided on the pitch. And in the final part of this story, we'll explore the biggest question of all. Is Manchester United really suffering because of the schedule? Or could this strange season actually give them their best opportunity in years?